Andrew, you're an idiot. You are an idiot. This is you trying to produce as an idiot.
Perfect. That was exactly what we needed. From New York, you are listening to Extra Time, driven by Continental from the AT&T MLS studios in Midtown Manhattan. I'm Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, Susannah Collins, David Goss. It is December 9th, 2019, and what does that mean, Dave?
Deep cut ETR episode.
The deepest of cuts.
How did I get pulled into this?
It was unintentional. It's just the way it works, Sus.
This feels like a good environment for you.
Yeah, you can be the voice of reason. We're going to be the sort of like
that is my role.
Unrepentant MLS nerds who try to tell you
45 minutes hyped up about Khiry Shelton's impact in spacing along the front line.
Exactly.
Baby.
Have you heard the phrase force multiplier? Because that's what Khiry Shelton is for Sporting Kansas City. He is not, in my opinion, an influx of capital or injection of capital or anything along those lines. But we'll talk about that.
Although he does have two capital letters in his name. At K and S.
That's that's interesting analysis right there. We do have an interview with Bobby Warshaw with Pablo Mastroeni at the end of this show. So if you want some deep cuts from back in the day, U.S. national team, Colorado Rapids, both as coach and a player winning MLS Cup.
What about the mustache?
Probably.
His
I
facial
don't
hair
know
dress.
that for sure. The other thing that I don't know for sure is whether or not Bobby asks Pablo, and I'm on the edge of my seat as well, about the origins of the Rocky Mountain Cup rivalry, because that Rice Eccles game, and I think didn't he thrust or did he grab?
No, the jersey was located inside his pants.
Right.
What we would call the South Pole region.
Yes, the Zlatan region. Zlatan's final game region. Yeah, that's an interesting story. I really hope Bobby asked him about that. I told him to ask him about that, so we'll see about that. Some scheduling stuff for you. We are going to get to a little, city on the Eastern Seaboard. Might be in the Southeast called Charlotte that many people are saying are getting an MLS team. We'll talk about all the rumors going around MLS and the deals that are done. And we will also talk CCL draw because that's coming on Monday night in Mexico City, DF. So we'll find out who is facing who in that one. But first, some scheduling. ETR Awards on Thursday. That is Bobby Doyle, Dave, and Wiebe just acting a fool going deep cut.
Are you dressing up for that one? Didn't Doyle sport the tux?
We had the tux T-shirts last year, but
yes.
I do not. I don't know where mine went.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah, I feel like Mindy probably got rid of that.
Fashion over here.
I feel terrible about it.
You need to step it up.
Mm-hmm. You think we have to elevate?
You
know what? I did buy a tuxedo this year.
Did you?
I did for my wedding.
Bring it in.
You bought that?
I bought that, which I don't know.
Again?
P.S. Side note. Kaylin Carr was at Warren Craval's wedding over the weekend, and it was a black tie wedding. And Kaylin was talking about his tuxedo that he needed to get clean, whatever.
I heard a lot about this.
Did you see his Instagram story?
I did.
Did you see? I'm like, did you have him tailor?
He got the Stu Holden.
Did you have him tailor the pants?
He got the Stu Holden. He got the extra.
What does that mean? How short were the pants?
They were. He was rocking the loafers with no socks, and then it was like ankles were exposed.
Very much so. Probably 3 inches up from your normal inseam, I would say. And my question, and look, he said it was black tie. He had some thoughts about the black tie, and then I saw the gram, and there were a lot of people there in normal suits, which is messed up.
Dark suits, though?
Dark suits.
Dark suits.
Yeah.
But that's not black tie.
Mood tones?
Nah.
Wow.
I have questions.
I had moods, but Kaylin went with the velvet loafers, which I felt was pretty impressive by him. So, look, the other news scheduling-wise, no shows, the 23rd, the 26th, and the 30th, so enjoy the holidays, enjoy Liguilla Final. America Monterrey, that should be fun on the 26th and 29th. MLS app, MLSsoccer.com for all the news and analysis. And if you're fretting, if you're saying, how am I supposed to get through all my family stuff without extra time? I have road trips. I need extra time. Well, I read a story this morning about some tech bros who are doing something both interesting and typical. They're trying to feel nothing. Nothing at all, they say, and that means dopamine fasting. So later on, it'll be dopamine rushes. So when we come back on January 2nd, you will feel incredible.
Wow.
ETR will course through you and your brain.
Okay.
Like a chemical.
Is that for us or for people listening?
For people listening.
We'll still feel the same.
Yeah,
I'll feel
same.
dead inside.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you'll be exactly the same.
Cool.
We are debating what that show will be. It might be an interview with Sacha Kljestan and a little bit of Dax McCarty thrown in for good measure. We might be in the studio. Kind of depends on who gets back at what time. I don't yet know that. Also, scheduling. My MLS Liga MX merger was supposed to come today. But then I remembered that you said on the last show that you hate scheduling format stuff. And you also were really bored by that scheduling format email. And so I thought today's not the right day. So I'm
We could have just dunked on you for 30 minutes.
Yeah, but that wouldn't have been that fun for me. So we'll do it later on. Here's the short version.
Yeah, but it would have been more fun later because you would have had no dopamine, so you would have fasted.
That would have. Yeah, that wouldn't have been fasting. That would have. Yeah. So here's the short version. So you can't steal my idea and say it was yours. 2 leagues, Pro Rel, 4 divisions. MLS and Liga MX parallel in the first division. MLS, Liga MX parallel in the second division. I'll leave it at that and I'll have more for you later. Okay, let's get to it. Charlotte, never been there. Don't know much about it. Team 30, reportedly, Board of Governors meeting. Here's what Commissioner Don Garber had to say. No formal agreement for Team 30 for Charlotte, but, quote, we're in very, very advanced discussions with David Tepper and his group. The board appreciated the detail they provided today and authorized the MLS Expansion Committee to enter what I expect to be the final negotiations with David to have Charlotte be our 30th team. So, writing seemingly on the wall, best case scenario, says Commissioner Don Garber, that Charlotte would enter in 2021, so you'd have balance and expansion. Miami and Nashville next year, Austin and Charlotte together in 2021, Sacramento and St. Louis in 2022. I don't know where I was going with that.
22.
Oh, boy, what a December night show this is.
Cam Wiebe with the announcement.
He does say it that way. I don't know if that's why I did that.
Oh, God.
The remaining issue is reportedly the stadium. Bank of America Stadium is where they want to play. That's where the Panthers play. Susannah, you know more about Charlotte than I do. I basically know Petey Pablo. I know DeBaby.
Take your shirt off, Weber. I have this like a helicopter.
North Carolina, and I'm a big Charlotte Hornets fan now because Devontae Graham. I tell you all about the Hornets. I cannot tell you about Charlotte apart from that. So
it's a great city.
That's a good start.
Love it. I actually love Charlotte. I spent quite a bit of time there back in the day. I was covering NASCAR. This is before I ventured into the soccer world, and so I was in Charlotte quite a bit. And it reminds me, it has a very Kansas City feel to me, in the sense where there's a lot going on in a very small radius. It's a southern town, so you get that wonderful southern hospitality, great restaurants and food, and a really great sports town. The fans are so nice. I've been to a couple Panthers games, and it's just like the friendliest group of people you'll ever be around. It's also an interesting place because there's so many really strong collegiate soccer programs in the Carolinas, and so for that reason, there's a lot of really incredible youth teams as well. Gianluca Buscio, I know I'm a homer for him, but he grew up with my cousin. I have family in North Carolina, and so I think that there's a passion for soccer there. I was able to spend some time there. We did a little soccer in the Southeast road trip a couple years ago, and it feels like with all the teams coming in that region, we've got Atlanta and Miami and Nashville and Orlando and now Charlotte potentially. It's I think that's going to be a really cool little rivalry region. You know, we've got like the Pac Northwest, but then we're going to have this nice sort of Southeast contingent of teams, and I think it's a region that's really there's a strong soccer history there, great sports fans, and you guys are going to have fun. Goss, I'm not kidding. Like the food in Charlotte is legit. I mean, you get that like southern style.
Are you a southern cooking guy?
It's really nice, and
I like good food. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a short flight from New York.
It's a very easy trip.
It's a super easy trip. I love it. I'm a big fan of the Carolinas in general.
So one of the things we've seen for MLS, right, is MLS kind of means something to a lot of people, and Charlotte is a city that's growing young. Because all of the jobs are a lot of people who are right out of college, and MLS appeals to those fans. And so I think it makes sense that David Tepper's group, with what he's done with the Panthers, and I think most people consider them one of the best NFL ownership groups. Yeah. You know, conscientious and things like that.
It's great. Panthers games are great too. Yeah. They're really fun. It's a nice stadium. It's right downtown too, which is great. It's so accessible. It's really, really easy to get there. I have no reason to think that this isn't going to be a big deal in the Queen City. Yeah.
So it makes sense. And let's be real. None of us knew Atlanta would work. Yeah. And it worked. So if it's done right, anywhere in the United States, people care about the sport. The game's good. The league is good right now. It just has to be packaged, sold, and operated in the correct way. But all of that is possible in any city, really, if you do it right. And so there's no reason to not be positive. It seems like the way it's gone, everyone who's, Mark Abbott, Don Garber, and the ownership group seem very excited about this and have moved really quickly to it. So that's positive to think that the way they're building this plan, the way it's coming together, is going to be good.
And there are still some like what ifs in that southern region, like Nashville. They have a what if. You don't know till they start. Like I remember when Atlanta came in and like the announcement, and they had I remember the Terminus Legion flag with the. And you're like, oh, that's awesome. There are more fans than you thought there were going to be because the Silverbacks hadn't done that well.
Atlanta.
Yeah, oh, I forgot that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Abner and Simon came back and were like ATL, UTD, TID.
Oh my
Right
gosh.
off the rip.
So we send Simon to Charlotte. He tells us exactly how this is going to go. What is it? What was his old prediction show in which he dressed up like a
we don't want to talk about
fortune teller? Yeah, no, we won't talk about that. It's still mystified. I'm mystified
I think that
still,
was
though.
for its own error.
Yeah, for sure. Leave it in the past is what you're saying.
Yikes.
I'm still mystified, though, that Nashville went into the West because they have to be with these other teams in the East, in my opinion. It's crazy. Like, when you have St. Louis come in, Chicago belongs with St. Louis and Kansas City. Like, to me, in my mind, those are the more relevant rivalries.
Yep.
And so if they move in 2020, why 2 years? Why not just do
Didn't
it?
Houston go east-west?
Yeah, Houston bounced back and forth. Kalen was actually a part of it. KC, I think, went back and forth too.
So it's happened
I think Chicago. No, Chicago. I don't know.
No, Chicago was always east.
Either way,
I believe. You do start to reach a situation where maybe you go divisions and you've got 3.
and you've
Gotta
heard my
It's going to be
divisions
enough
on
teams.
this show.
Let's do it.
Yeah, you've heard mine on this show.
weird.
So some other nuggets for you here. MLS Cup. From Commissioner Don Garber, he said this at the U.S. soccer meetings over the weekend. You can read a bunch of coverage about that all over soccer Twitter, soccer Reddit, wherever it is. Henry Bushnell had some good stuff. Yahoo covered this well. The Athletic covered it well. There were a lot of things that came out of that, including where youth coaches should be living, and that's sort of a big debatable topic right now. Where the money's going, where it's going to go, what the plan is for the future. But Commissioner Don Garber said MLS Cup 2020 will be November 7th. It was November 10th this year. So still a pretty similar sort of scheduling thing there.
Stuck that one straight in the calendar.
Just get it right in.
I wasn't mad. I wasn't mad.
CCLFever, draw tonight in Mexico City. I am probably as excited about this as just about anybody in the world. The preeminent soccer competition in, I was just say the globe, everywhere. Concacaf Champions League, everywhere. The universe is coming up.
I don't know if you realize, but the Club World Cup's about to kick off, so relax.
It does have a CCL entrance. So 9 p.m. Eastern, if you're listening on Monday night, you can watch this TSN 2day. It's streamed. 5 teams in there. You know them by now, I hope. If you listen to this show, Atlanta United, LAFC, Montreal Impact, NYCFC, and the Seattle Sounders. All of the MLS teams are in pot 1. So, Susannah, we're going to treat you as our sort of our layman in this situation. There are 2 pots, basically one's seeded, one's not. It's a blind draw, which means you draw like A1 and B1. So like you're not like, okay, well, the name of the Montreal Impact is in here. No, you're drawing A1 out of the hat. You can figure that out, I guess, on your own. 3
No, Andrew, please tell us about it more.
Okay. 3 Liga MX teams are in pot 1. Club America, Tigres, Cruz Azul, León is in pot 2. So an MLS team will face León. They are the Toluca, let's say, of this year's edition. Sporting KC drew Toluca off the bat. And then you have kind of the who's who of Central American and Caribbean soccer as well. Alianza from El Salvador. Portmore United, they won the Caribbean Cup, so they go in from Jamaica. San Carlos, you probably don't know them. I'll tell you about them in just a second. From Costa Rica, Saprissa. We all know the Purple Monster, Comunicaciones, Olimpia, Montagua. Those are sort of...
Is this the first Guatemalan team since they've been suspended? It's been
it might be.
3 years.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah. And then a couple Honduran teams as well. I put together my dream matchups. I have as the ultimate dream matchup, LAFC Alianza. You like that one, or you just...
Oh, we've already talked about that. I forgot that we talked about this off air.
Right.
Yes, tell us why, Andrew.
Yes, we had some cocktails and talked about Concacaf Champions League over the weekend.
I forgot about that. I was like, I know.
Yeah, he's like, it's a great thing. It's cool. It's awesome. So the first ever international friendly at Bank of California Stadium was Guatemala, El Salvador, and it was sold out. The best soccer game I've ever been to, I've said it many times in the show, is El Salvador-Roma. Crazy, weird game. Club, country, Red Bull Arena.
Classic.
Beautiful, beautiful night of soccer, though the place wasn't filled, but it was an absolute party. And then you have Rodolfo Zelaya, who just did his knee for El Salvador. He's going back to Alianza in my fantasy world, and he's going to come to LAFC with the series tied after scoring a goal down in San Salvador. and it's going to be wild. There's going to be significant overlap between Allianz's fan base and LAFC. I see Susannah yawning. No, that's not selling you?
I wish I could get as excited as you guys about this. It just, we've talked about it before. I'm just, the CCL fever thing just has not, I do not have that affliction.
I get it. What's missing, though? Like, I have it, so I can't, I have blinders on. I just don't. I understand, but I don't understand.
I think it's just an unfamiliarity with so many of these
with the teams.
And also, MLS teams haven't done well, and so it's not. It always I see how negatively it
MLS
affects.
Teams in the
I know, but then it's heartbreak.
But like you
and
got
it's like,
50%
and I witness it, and I'm like, well, God, I don't want to.
So you're like,
sign me up for that.
You're the friend in the friend group that's watching their other friends have some really tumultuous, maybe like bad ending relationship. And you're just like, get out of it.
I'm a Chicago sports
away.
fan. Like I know heartbreak, but I don't need more of it. I don't need more of it, Gus.
But listen, you end up like, let's just be real, a Patriots fan where you're booing your team when you're 10-2 or whatever's going on. You got to have the heartbreak to enjoy the good times.
I have had plenty of heartbreak.
Yeah, I agree. I'm in New York.
This is dopamine fasting. All right, we've been fasting for years and years and years, and now finally, when MLS does it, it's just going to be an explosion.
I mean, I want that. I really, really do.
One of the cool things for me when I first started watching CCL, which I always thought was fantastic, was MLS kind of gets these designated players that are sort of random in the region.
Yep.
And every once in a while, you'll turn on a game and you'll be watching like a high school soccer field in northern Nicaragua, and Tornston Frings is on the field, and you're like, Tornston Frings must be thinking, where the hell am I right now?
Right.
So, like, if Carlos Vela has to play at Estadio Cuscatlán in a club game,
no, I like that.
Sold out
I
night
like
game,
that.
the crowd's going wild, 50,000.
We're on a good track
interesting.
Here. All right, let me throw this out to you.
I'm into that.
Thierry Henry's first game as Montreal Impact manager is in Jamaica, Portmore United, and guess who is on the opposite sideline? Deep cut alert for you, Shavar Thomas.
Nice.
Who, noted KC Wizards, Chivas USA. I'm trying to think of any other ones in that time. He's a legend, Jamaica legend. He was a legend for them as a player, too. And guess what? Corey Burke, if he's not back to the Union by then, is the starting striker.
Okay. All right. You've got my attention.
If I say the words Andre Lewis, does that mean anything to you?
I mean, it registers.
Okay. It's like, beep, 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 beep. Okay, well, he was the number 7 overall pick in 2014 Super Draft to Vancouver. Didn't quite work out, but he's there.
Okay.
How about this?
Okay.
San Carlos. Have you ever heard of them?
Yes. I've heard of them.
Okay. So.
I know anything.
So, Alvaro Saborio, the legend Sabo, he went to Saprissa. He had issues with the management there. He retired. He went back home to San Carlos, second division, scored a boatload of goals, got him up to the first division. In their first season in the first division, they beat Saprissa.
Okay.
On his goals. Now, the bad news is that Alvaro Saborio just retired, so he won't be actually with them, but it's an awesome story.
So this is okay. So this is what you're selling me on right now are the storylines.
Human interest stories.
The human interest stories.
That's what it is.
That is okay.
So Tigres is going to beat San Carlos. Now imagine this.
I will let it in.
Andre Pierre Gignac and Tigres, Tuca Ferretti, take on Thierry Henry.
Okay.
In the quarterfinals. French connection, Tuca versus Thierry. That's fun.
What do you mean?
Like
Gignac. Thierry is the French.
I think you need.
APG. Yeah.
I feel like you need, or do like a whole episode or write an article about these like little storylines because then
just neither of us read it.
Right, exactly.
I blatantly.
But that's why I'm here to just I have you for 30 minutes. You literally can't go anywhere. I can just throw this at you.
Give me
How about this?
all the like good little.
How about this? Saprissa. I put them up against NYCFC.
Yeah.
Venegas, Bolaños, Roy Miller, Aubrey David, another deep cut for you. And then they have a teenager who scored like 8 goals in the last tournament, Manfred Ugalde.
Playing.
He's 17.
Playing at MCU Park in Coney Island.
Oh. Now, now we're selling you.
That's the big
How about
sell.
this? Milton Caraglio, Yoshi Yotun with Cruz Azul. Not selling you? Okay, fine. Jerry Bankston with Olympia. Not selling you?
So I just want to point out so everyone remembers, these are also not, the draw did not occur yet.
Correct.
These are Andrew Wiebe's made up ideal ones.
Yeah,
so these are perfect storylines, none of which will actually come to fruition because that's not how the draw will go.
Right. But that tells you where I'm at with this, Suze.
Yeah.
I'm literally out here making up fake draws for my
But
maximum.
I love that. I love that about you.
We'll spend all next year trying to sell you. Okay, how about this? Chad from Texas wants to know which MLS team is best equipped to go down to Mexico and win a game. We're going to put that to you. 401-206-0MLS. Extra time at MLSsoccer.com. Let's get to some transfers before we get to Bobby and Pablo Mastroeni. Inter Miami reportedly going to spend a boatload of money on Exequiel Palacios. Right now, transfer market says what? 25 mil? 28 mil? River Plate, 21 years old, central midfielder, kind of box to box. Definitely a big prospect. 4 caps for Argentina. Would break this transfer record. Maybe coached by Marcelo Gallardo. We're still speculating about that. Nobody has any idea. He was a member. This is mostly what I knew, and I know he was good too because I watched some Libertadores. I was like, where do I know this guy? And I knew him from the Love Triangle. The Love Triangle.
I don't think it counts as the. It's
in Argentina, I think it might have been the Love Triangle. Sorry, I couldn't get it out.
Listen, I just want this guy in
your guys' expert analysis here.
So it was an amateur actress.
Yes.
This is according to the Wikipedia. Please, you guys, check out the Wikipedia entry.
Right.
On Palacios.
All-time great Wikipedia.
Fantastic.
You have to speak into the mic.
So it's
just want to let you
know. An amateur actress, and then an old friend from home who's a manicurist.
Right.
And it's just,
it's a life that I
one found out
can't
about
imagine.
Also, can you imagine this guy in Miami?
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes.
He was like, he's like, wait, his agent's like, did you know there's an expansion team coming to Miami? He's like,
boop, boop, boop.
Say that again?
Sign me up.
David Beckham, awesome. Here's some other news. If you have thoughts on it, let me know. Atlanta United gets Emerson Hyndman back in the fold. Permanent deal from Bournemouth. He had 10 starts last year, a goal, 3 assists. Looked pretty good. Became kind of a favorite of Frank de Boer. Started a game in the playoffs. Nagby's gone. Kind of had to do it, I think.
Yeah, he didn't play in the similar role as Nagby last year because Nagby was there and
mostly
played
kind of on the wing, yeah?
Yeah, but he is a connecting player. He's not a guy who breaks people down. So I think he'll fit well as a Nagby light type guy. Whether they play the same way or not, he can give you a little bit of similar production in that time. So it made sense for Atlanta United. Also, you'd already culturally know that he fits with you.
Yep. Khiry Shelton, Sporting KC, he fits culturally.
Didn't he score a huge goal?
He did, U.S. Open Cup. I believe.
No, Campeones Cup.
Oh, it might have been that too, but I know there were some in Open Cup as well. So he had his moments for sure. He's a quality player. We've missed him for a long time. Now we get to watch him every single week. That's cool. Khiry Shelton spent a year in Germany at Paderborn. Barely played.
Study abroad.
About 100 minutes played.
Yeah.
Looked like he had a great time.
But really found himself.
Yeah, it did look like he had a great time. I think I follow him on the gram. His German teammates loved him.
And now every time he comes to change, be like, oh, sorry, guys. That's not how we did it when I lived abroad.
Yes. Sorry. He was good in 2018 for Sporting Kansas City. 2 goals, 5 assists. I said force multiplier. He made the guys around him better. The likes of Johnny Russell, Gutierrez.
Right, but on the scale of Joseph Martinez to Eric Hurtado, he's on the Eric Hurtado side.
Correct. And I said I like this signing. I think it's a really good depth signing. When Peter Vermes said injection of capital, I did not think that he meant like Richard Sanchez, a center back on a free, and Khiry Shelton out of contract on a free. Now, Shelton signed a long-term deal. I get why. He's like the perfect backup for them. If somebody gets hurt, if somebody's suspended, if they're on international duty, he can come in and they'll maybe, they finish top the West with him playing a ton of games. But look at the top goal scorers. Look at the best teams in the league. Not saying they're Joseph Martinez's. On your scale, though, they're closer to Joseph Martinez than is Khiry Shelton. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean? They are Joseph Martinez's.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they're like Raul Diaz.
Look at how the playoffs. Yeah. Net it out. You had LAFC, which has everything. You have Rui Diaz. You have Josie. Does anyone remember who Toronto beat? Joseph Martinez. Those were the final 4.
Yeah.
So, they are Joseph Martinez on most teams.
Do we think they're going to sign a starting striker?
I still don't. I told you they weren't last week.
They're gonna. I believe.
They
have to!
I know, because Peter Vermes said injection of capital, which is I know Peter doesn't care about what we say. He doesn't care about Twitter. But it's so tough because you have to say that to your fan base and you're probably planning on it. But then you have these expectations because then when people see Khiry Shelton, they're like, I'm both excited, but I don't think that's what you meant.
I love the idea that in a coaching office in Kansas City, there's just depth chart. Khiry Shelton's already at the top. And now Peter Vermes is going to spend 4 months making you guys think, oh, no, this one's coming. Oh, no, this one's close. This one's close. And then fifth week of the season, Khiry Shelton's the starter.
Yeah,
boom.
He's marionetting us right now. He's making us dance.
Yeah.
We believe it's coming.
I hate it because it's probably true.
Yeah, I know.
You know I'm right.
I know.
You know I'm right.
I know. Sacha Kljestan reportedly signing with the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Who likes this? Susannah, tell me why you like it.
I love it.
Hand in the air.
Sasha's a California boy. I think that this is going to be a very, very good move for the Galaxy as well. I mean, he's a veteran player. He's very, very solid in the midfield. I like that, little
maybe all three spots too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like he's versatile. I'm definitely here for that one.
His brother is in the organization, Gordon Kljestan.
Yeah.
We have
Gordon.
Both,
yeah.
Both are Seton Hall legends. By the way, Hall in, hashtag.
Yeah, maybe the best left foot Sacha Kljestan's ever seen belonged to his brother. That's a nugget from the interview that I taped with him. Also, he talked about being cut from the World Cup team. So when that comes out, you'll want to listen. It got emotional at times.
Yeah.
He needs I feel like, after a kind of a want 2019 in Orlando, I think that this is going to be a nice little reboot.
Yeah, it'll be nice to see if he has more left than I saw a couple of those games in person. It didn't feel
I think he does.
that way, but I hope he does. And also, I agree with you. I think he fits it all well. This midfield, why I love them, Corona, Leggett, and Jonah, is they're all
nice.
Clean first touch, quick movement. Sacha's the same player, so if he's healthy and can cover a little ground, he can at least fill in at all three of the spots for them and move things around.
I like
Benny Feilhaber, another veteran that we know wants to be in LA, but may or may not be. We'll kind of keep our eyes peeled on him, and Sacha's not done yet. So MLS app, MLSsoccer.com for that one. Michael Murillo to Anderlecht is done, and Sacha Kljestan reportedly told him that he's going to have a great time. If you go to Anderlecht and you know Sacha Kljestan, you're contractually obliged in your canned quote in the release to say that you talked to Sacha Kljestan and he told you the fans were awesome.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of great points for you, especially because Sacha Kljestan was part of sort of the, let's say, a better era of Anderlecht than is currently happening. Michael Murillo, very good player. Dab got hit Twitter and said,
debate, but yeah.
Okay, he has moments of being a very good player. Okay. But reportedly, this transfer fee was high six figures, potential to get to 7. Anderlecht's media sold it as like a budget signing to fill a hole. But for the Red Bulls, it's kind of
good move for the Red Bulls. They
Great
got a good amount of money for a guy who didn't play for them. But the thing for the Red Bulls, which will keep coming back, is what are you going to spend it on? That's what their fans care about right now. They've made great moves like this for years. They did it with the Dax trade. They did it with the Sacha trade. How are you replacing them? And I don't think Murillo was a starter for them, so I think it's a great move, and I don't think he should have been a starter. But once again, have they signed anyone in the offseason yet? Okay, cool. Just checking.
Yeah. DC United, Bill Hamid's back on a permanent deal from Denmark. Can't hold him back, baby.
Yeah, it seemed like it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Had a good season this year.
Yeah. And
one of the top 5 goalkeepers in MLS.
Yeah, it wasn't working out. He had one reserve appearance in Danish soccer. So that didn't work out, but he got his adventure. Now he appreciates DC more. He's like, I'm connected to the city, to Ben. I feel great when I step in front of the home fans. So he's back. We kind of figured that would happen. FC Dallas signed a holding midfielder from Brazil, Thiago Santos, which is like kind of what I would expect a name generator to churn out for a Brazilian defensive midfielder. No offense to him. It's a great name. Thiago Santos, 30 years old. He just came from Palmeiras. Transfer fee as high as $1 million, and I'm a little confused, Dave. They got Paxton Pomykal, who we love. They got Brandon Servania, who we like and maybe love at times. They've got Edwin Cerrillo, who had his moments. They have
DP and Brian
Acosta.
And technically, they have Ja'Cory Hayes, who can play in there as well. Not a high-level player, but a serviceable player.
Yeah, for sure.
It seems like this signing is you brought in a head of soccer operations from Brazil who probably had an idea of, hey, we're getting this guy on a good deal. I don't know if it fits what they need, but you're going to make the signing because he has more knowledge about the market and he sees a deficiency that he could take advantage of. For me, the problem is Brian Acosta an 8? Okay, so you move him there. Now Servania's not getting playing time. Is Pomykal a 10? If not, now they're all sharing one spot between him, Jesus Ferreira, Servania, where's Cerrillo playing? Not saying that those players are going to win you MLS Cup in 2020, but the whole point is development and selling those guys on. This guy's 30 years old. Yeah. There's no sell-on value here. So it just seems like there are these moments where we talk about MLS teams building themselves to be a player developer, and then they make signings where they get in their own way with it. And I'm not saying he's not going to be a good player, and he might be the key for them to win MLS Cup. And I'll look like a complete idiot, which I think I'd be stoked about, and that would be a fun time. But that's the question marks when they make signings like this.
It's a question of winning versus development and selling, right? Like, you want to be a selling league, but if you're Dallas, you also don't want to just be like, we might not make the playoffs, we might. You want to be there. You want to sort of like have that sure thing. So we'll see if they can make that balance.
But also, spend the money on a winger or a forward.
Yeah, that's fair. I would say that's fair. You just traded Dambaji.
You don't have as many young players that are filling those spots. You've got 7 young center midfielders that you like. There's your move.
If you bought a center forward, would you tell Cobra in person or would you do it via text? I might do it via text. I might do that one via text. Some other rumors for you before we get to Bobby here. Quick show, at least in the studio here. Steven Eustaquio. Look, he said that. He pronounced it. I'm just repeating how he pronounced it. It's a Canadian international, reportedly going from Cruz Azul to the Impact. Caixinha, fellow Portuguese, brought him to Cruz Azul. Then Caixinha got canned real quick before Eustaquio could recover from injury. So he's a cap with the Canadian national team. Dave, you think he's going to be like Sam Piet, basically?
I think what I've been told from people who have seen him play more than me is that he's a decent player. He's a player who can play at a high level. There's someone they were excited about getting into the Canadian pool because there was question marks if he played for Portugal. So it doesn't seem like he's 22 years old, so he can still improve. Yeah. I think Piet was 23 when he came back from Spain, something like that. So yeah, it seems like the type of signing which makes sense because he's got a Canadian passport. So you bring him home, he doesn't take up an international spot, all that stuff, and has the potential to be a decent player in your midfield.
You know what I screwed up?
His brother also plays, by the way, in CPL.
Yeah, I screwed this up, by the way. When we talked about Khiry Shelton and Sporting Kansas City, I should have been saying Lucas Cavallini's name over and over and over because those were some of the rumors. We were jacked about that. Doyle was on the edge of his seat. It looks like the Caps are going to get him.
Yeah.
That's the report.
Yeah.
So that's a great move.
Good for them.
We'd heard that they were looking to try and sneak Kyle Larin back last year when it was question mark. So it seems like a Canadian center forward. And if you're looking at the pool, he's top of the list. I mean, Jonathan David is the number 1, but if you want a Canadian center forward and you're the Vancouver Whitecaps, that's as good as you're going to do. And he will give you a ton of minutes. And he'll fight and he'll create space. Like, he'll be a good player whether he scores a ton of goals or not year 1.
You hope he scores a ton of goals, though.
Yeah.
Some nuggets before we get out of here. Paul Tenorio says the Fire sporting director will come from outside of U.S., so not from sort of the pool that we're used to seeing. And then Gio Reyna was named to the Borussia Dortmund squad over the weekend, so that's pretty cool. Suzanne, I think this is your last show before you go off to the holidays. So before we get to Bobby Warshaw and Pablo Mastroeni, a quick scheduling reminder. Thursday are the ETR Awards. Bobby will be here for those, as will Doyle. Susanna, go ahead and say goodbye to the people. Just, I don't know.
I mean, this was my first season.
Oh,
first full season.
Yeah, my first full season of extra time.
What were your takeaways?
My takeaways are that I need to get on the CCL train. I really because if I'm just going to have to sit at this desk with you guys, I got to get on board.
I feel like you were probably daydreaming of the call up throughout that.
A little bit. I was thinking of Here for This is to me.
You're like, oh yeah, we should have done that. Susanna, are you here for this CCL? No, I'm not. You're the Iko Para of CCL commentators. Don't even put me in it.
It's been such a blast, and I feel like I have been sort of the voice of reason for you guys in various moments. I feel like you've needed me. I feel like you've needed me, and
we have.
Yeah.
Well, here's our farewell.
It's been great.
Yeah, here's our farewell to you. Thank you for being a member of the show, which has been an incredible upgrade.
It's a blast.
She's going on a holiday break, and we'll be back.
It's not farewell forever.
No, just closing it out.
Your buddy's going away. You give him a hug. You say, "Hey, man, I'll see you in a bit." It was had a great year with you.
Yeah, I'm coming back, baby. I'm back. I'm gonna come back, baby. You can't get rid of me.
No, we can't. we absolutely can't.
That's the truth.
All right, well. We're out of here.
I'd like to say one quick thing since we're saying nice things about people. About our Swedish producer, Anders. I'd like to say bra prudescent, which in his native Swedish means great producer.
But is that part of Scandinavia?
It is part of
100%. We all know
Scandinavia.
that.
Thank you.
Yes.
That one's locked.
Glad we cleared it up. Glad we cleared it up.
Let's get right to Bobby with Pablo Mastroeni. We'll see you on Thursday, everybody.
Joining us now in the AT&T MLS studio, 17-year MLS veteran, 2-time World Cup participant, MLS Cup winner. All MLS fans know his name, Pablo Mastroeni. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Bob.
Yeah, this is exciting. You were one of, if not my favorite, I would say after Ben Olsen, you were my favorite player growing up. I remember 2002, 2006, even the 2001 Miami team, so it's awesome to get you in here. Let's start off with, what have you been doing since you left the Rapids in August of 2017?
Well, I've been spending a lot of time with my family. You know, I thought about getting right back into it. As a coach, you want to make sure that, if you're going to get back into it, you do it quicker than later. And for me, it was I went the other way with it, and I said, you know what, I'm going to take some time, reflect upon my experience as a coach, think about things that I could do better, and in doing so, spend more quality time with the family. And so I've been pretty much a stay-at-home dad. We've been going on family vacations that we never had the opportunity to do in the past. And if we did, it was always with the caveat, the phone was on, GM's calling, there's always something going on. The game just never stops. And so I was able to experience prior to the trip what it felt like to prepare, being on the trip, enjoying it without having any thought of, oh my God, we got to hurry up when we get back home. I got to do this. It was just pure enjoyment, and so it's been an amazing time to really delve into those relationships at a deeper level, and including my wife. And so now, a couple years later, I have better relationships, and it's good to be back and talking soccer.
Speaking of those relationships, you went straight from playing basically straight to managing. This is your first time away from the game. What is your relationship like just with soccer in general, and now that you get your first 12 months away from it?
Yeah, it was tough, to be honest. I actually I didn't watch too much soccer. I was, like I said, I was just spending time, picking the kids up from school and really thinking about it a lot. And but soccer does an amazing thing. When it's in your blood and it's part of who you are, it creeps back in whether you like it or not. And so after a couple of months, I found myself watching games, and then and looking at the different tactical objectives from the different coaches and the different styles of plays, and so now it's an everyday thing, and the kids appreciate the game. My wife loves to talk, and so it's back full force, and now it's getting exciting now that the playoffs are here upon us in 2019.
And now that you've had 2 years away, with the experiences you've gained, what would you have done about your coaching experience differently?
Well, it's easy in hindsight to say what you've done differently. I think, you're not going to be great at anything you do for the first time, and that's why experience hurts, unfortunately. But you got to take your lumps, and you got to learn. And I think there's a lot of things in every aspect of coaching, managing upwards, to the GMs and the presidents and the corporate outfits. What I do differently there, as far as managing a team from a stylistic perspective, a tactical perspective, a mentality perspective, and then the other part of that is, which I hope to have gained some experience, is how do you now disconnect a little bit more to really be a part of the family that's at home, and really appreciate what they have to offer, because they're really an important part of any coach. You're going to have a lot of tough days, but when you come back home, there's always the family there to support you and love you for who you are, not for a result that you should have had. And so, moving forward, I think for me, it's really how do I become more efficient as a coach with my time while I'm at work, to be able to then engage with my family when I come home.
I remember feeling constantly stressed as a player. The most volatile profession, at least of all the ones within my sphere of friends and family. I can't even imagine what it was like as a coach and trying to disconnect when you get home to your family.
It's tough, and it's borderline impossible if you want to do a good job, because there's so many things that happen away from the field that you have to have your finger on the pulse. You have to be ready to make decisions. You have to meet with players that are going through a tough time, but you need them for the weekend, and so they become your family. They become your family, and that's the type of investment it takes to become a really good coach. And I think there's coaches out there with a lot more experience than myself, and I've realized the impact that they've had on me as a player, and the type of commitment it takes. And so it's not easy. It's not for everyone, but one thing I learned is, you're either all in or you're all out.
Well, we got to go from there and transition to maybe your best line as a coach. Do you know what line I'm going to say right now? When I think of Pablo Mastroeni as a coach, I think of this line. I love it. Give me heart over analytics. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah.
Maybe is there context to that?
Yeah, there's definitely context to it, and I think that I think for me, the observer from the outside likes to speak about the game in isolation. In other words, they talk about possession as an isolation term or whatever metric you want to use. The truth is the game of soccer is a fluid game. It's too big. There's too many variables, right? There's 11 players that one game they're feeling good, they're vibing off each other. Everyone slept well, everyone ate well. They come in with good energy. There's other games where these players, for whatever reason, they're having an issue at home. They don't sleep well. They don't eat well the day before the game. They go and they don't have a lot of energy for the game, or their mindset isn't right. And we're talking about possession, and I'm saying that all this other stuff matters when the human being is operating at its best. Mm-hmm. If not, how do we tap into that part of it and really create an environment for them to be successful in? How do we continue to improve certain players whilst getting results? And I get it. Fans don't want to talk about all the nitty-gritty, arbitrary, things outside of the game that influence it. But you as a soccer player understand that it's not just the X's and O's. It's not just how long we keep the ball, where we keep the ball. I mean, those are all very important. But again, if the player himself isn't operating at his best, all these things are negligible because he's going to be operating from a 5 instead of a 10.
We could talk about this for hours. I mean, imagine for the people out there, if you've ever broken up with your partner, right, and you go to work, how hard it is. Now imagine going in front of 30,000 fans, a couple 100,000 on TV with millions, hundreds of millions on the line somewhere, and you're supposed to perform. I love that you got into that. And just hearing you talk about the game as a manager here at the table with you reminds me of you as a player, an incredibly fiery person, a leader. Where did that fire come from?
Well, I think most of it came from my dad, who always pushed me and really was my psychology as a young kid, and I remember, having fevers like 101 or 102, and he says, that's not high enough to miss practice for, and so I think my dad, whether he meant it or not, was a great influence in my life to be able to overcome adversity. And then I went to college, and I had a coach, George Tarantini, who was another important figure in my life, who, I wouldn't consider him, he wasn't one of my favorite coaches, let's put it that way. But having played for him and looking in retrospect, he was a really important character in my life. When things were coming easy for me, he made sure that they weren't coming easy enough and made me work for everything I had. And then looking back, I said, well, you know what? He wasn't the nicest coach, or he wasn't the most admirable coach, but he was a coach that really instilled in me a belief in myself and an ability to overcome a lot of challenges. And so I think I've been fortunate to have some mentors that have really challenged me in different ways, difficult ways, but ways that I think kind of shaped my mentality, not only for the game, but for life.
As a leader on the team, or maybe a manager, maybe just as a mentor, how do you pull that out of other people? Is there a way that you can teach them? Is there a way that you can pull out every bit of intensity or fire? Or is it just something you have or you don't have?
Well, I think every player has a ceiling as far as technical ability or tactical understanding. And there's a ceiling for that. You either have that or you don't, At the pro level, if you don't have technique with your left foot, you're not going to get it. But you can continue to improve your tactical understanding, and you can develop all these things. The one area I think that you can really delve deep in and reach out is the belief system, the belief that they have in themselves. And if you as a coach show that you believe in them, honestly show that you believe in, they start to think about themselves differently. And that's where you get the extra percentages, because again, you can work with them after training every day. You can work with the guys, but it's really about, do you think you're capable of achieving this, your best, being better? And I think that's the area where I like to really impact the lives of the players.
What I tell friends when we talk about my career is that you always do a passing drill or a possession drill before you play at the end, before you go to 6v6 or 7v7. And the way my coaches really just my Dallas coach, would talk to me, would determine so much. And some days I was legitimately the best player in training. Some days I felt like I could go to the national team and really contribute on an international stage. Some days I was the worst player, because if the coach gets on you in a certain way, there's such a big spectrum for players in terms of confidence. If you are confident, you are a tier different than when you're not confident. And I always felt like not enough coaches thought about that. As you've already mentioned, it's not as much about tactics, and tactics matter, but make me believe in myself. And that's, even without tactics, that's the most important variable.
It is. And I think you could see it in all sports, right? Why does a player from this team doesn't play well for this team, but comes over to this team and all of a sudden he's playing at a different level? And it's really, I think, the belief that the coach has in that player. And no different than, teachers and different mentors in life. When they believe in somebody, these kids outperform what's expected of them.
Give me a little trick of the trade there. Did you have any little tools? You don't have to give them all away, but what's this one little thing you can do to lift up a player?
I mean, for me, it's really simple. Like, how's everything going today? How's and getting to know whether they have a girlfriend, getting to know whether they have a wife and kids, and away from the field, maybe in the lunchroom, talking about how the kid's doing.
So it doesn't have to be soccer. It doesn't have to be, hey, great work today.
No, as a matter of fact, I think it's better that it's not, right? Because when it's soccer, you want it to be professional. Mm-hmm. You want it to be professional. You want it to be very, black and white. But when you're talking about the human being, you want to tap into their psyche. What's life away from the game? Are they struggling with the move from this city to Denver? Have they found a good school? Does your wife have friends? How is it coming along? Have you been to this park up in the in the woods? And reaching them at the human level. And like I've said, I say this all the time. If you can reach the human, you can affect the player. And I don't think it works opposite, and so really building these relationships. And again, that's why I think it takes so much time away from your life at home, is because you only have so much life energy. Mm-hmm. And you're watering these plants at work every day, and you're giving your everything to them on the field, off the field, and building these relationships that I think go a long ways. And so it's difficult to balance, but it's one of those labor of love things for sure.
I wonder how many people out there listening are just think to myself, man, I'm going to give this episode to my boss. Now I want to rewind a little bit to, if I had maybe one question or three questions from a genie to get to ask him from American soccer history, this would be one of them. Prior to the 2002 World Cup, you don't make the team. Chris Armas gets hurt. Really one of the most tragic things that could happen to a player, that has happened to a player in American soccer, but you get called in. Walk me through the 2 hours from when you get that call.
Well, it was interesting. I got a call from Bruce, and he says, "I'm bringing you in," and he says, "Do you know why?" And at the time, I thought my performances warranted that. I was playing well, and a couple friendlies prior to, and he said, "No, I'm bringing you in because you're the 23rd player out of 23 players." He said, "You bust your butt every day in training to push the guy in front of you. You get along with the guys, which is important for a player that deep on the roster. And you show every day that you want to get better. And that's what I need from you in this position." And so for me, it kind of validated everything that all these coaches that I had prior to were kind of trying to explain to me. And it kind of manifested in real form in that moment when I got that call from Bruce. And yeah, it was, again, super unfortunate for Armas. And that's why, I mentor a couple of young players, and I always, it's the same thing for players at the back end of a roster. If your opportunity comes, which it will, and your mindset is of poor me, or it's the coach's fault, or it's that teammate's fault, and you're not prepared to take advantage of that moment, you might never get a chance again in your life to achieve what you want. And so I think for me, it was like everything kind of coming full circle, and really one of the greatest moments of my life.
So Bruce tells you the number 23 guy on the roster, which of course means come the first game against Portugal, you're in the starting lineup. Claudio Reyna had not yet fully recovered from his injury. You start the first game of the World Cup. I want to know, you go up 3-0 in inside 35 minutes. What's going through Pablo Mastroeni's mind when you get called in late, and then you find out you're starting late, and then you go up 3-0 against a world power?
It's incredible. Going back the day before the game when Claudia goes down, I remember Bruce looking around and going, thinking to himself, who the heck am I going to put on the field? And he looks over at me, and he almost says it with like a scowl, and he said, Pablo, put that bib on. And I was like, oh, man. So here I am now with the starting group. I wasn't even supposed to make the World Cup team. Now, all of a sudden, I'm starting against, Portugal. And then fast forward to the game, we're up 3-0. And I'm thinking to myself, what is going on, And it's one of those moments where you're basically floating above the field, and you're looking down at, and you're going, what am I doing there? Is this really happening? But it was surreal, And the crazy thing was, I'll never forget, after that game, I look in the stands, and my dad had this huge banner, and I didn't even know that he made it. And I don't know why he made it. I guess he thought I was going to be playing at some point. But it said, Dare to Dream. And him and my mom and my brother were holding it up, and I just thought to myself, man, that's a pretty powerful moment that I'll never forget.
That's awesome. But I have to ask the flip side of that. Portugal pulls 2 goals back, and you survive for the last 20 minutes. What is it like surviving in a World Cup opener against Portugal?
To be honest, it felt like where we were supposed to be at that time. Really going up against all the preparation for that game. I mean, the players that they had on the field, Rui Costa, Figo, Bento. I mean, they were stacked. So it felt like that was the game we were preparing for, where it was going to be hot and heavy for long periods of time. And so, the last 20 minutes definitely we're trying. But I think it built that kind of grit and that kind of character that kind of saw us through the rest of the World Cup, which was a very interesting, dynamic, and memorable tournament for sure.
What's your favorite World Cup story? It could be from 2002. You made the 2006 roster as well. When you're sitting around with your friends, what's the story you love to tell?
It's crazy. I tell people all the time, I've never had the opportunity to go back and relive those moments. Like, I have not watched a World Cup game. It's because life just keeps going, and you want to be better than you were, and I'm sitting here trying to dig deep and think about a good, here's a non-soccer story, but it happened in the World Cup. I was sitting in a hotel, met a gentleman. We had these friendlies before we head off to Germany, and there's a gentleman, Dan Magala, who I had met and was working marketing, and he was working with a Nashville team where we happened to be playing a friendly. And he said, I heard you play the guitar. I said, yeah. He goes, well, I got a connection with Gibson. And he goes, maybe I can trade a jersey for a guitar. And I said, that's great. Let's do that. So we fly out to Germany. About 2 weeks in, a Gibson custom guitar shows up. And then he says, and you know what? I just got the opportunity for you guys to record a song in the studio where the Beatles recorded their first studio in Hamburg. And I thought, this is epic. Let's do it. So Chris Albright, myself, I think maybe Ben Olsen, all cruise over.
Sounds right. That sounds about right. I don't know the story, but that's who I would guess.
Yeah. So we cruise over and we record this song in the studio that Albright and I had been working on. And sure enough, they were playing it over the German radio for the remainder of the Cup.
That's amazing. Can we find it anywhere? Is it out there?
I doubt it.
You don't know the internet in 2019. So I have to ask this because Andrew Wiebe would hate me if I don't, but he would want to know about Colorado Rapids versus Real Salt Lake, September 2006. Do you know where I'm getting at here?
I have an idea.
The moment that really sparked the Rocky Mountain Cup. After the game, you guys beat them, and you take your shirt off. And I don't even know how to articulate what you did from there. But can you walk me through that moment?
Yes. It was always a bitter rivalry, I think, from the start. But that game, for whatever reason, the fans were just crazy. And we were playing over at the University of Utah. And tough turf field. It was basically turf on cement.
It was like the old indoor turf.
Yeah,
when
indoor
you had to
turf.
wear indoors.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Rice Eccles? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, Rice Eccles.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So anyways, these fans were just giving it to me all game long, and it was like louder and more aggressive and borderline. I don't know. It was crazy. I mean, there's a lot of stuff being said that was like really personal, you know, and so throughout the game, I mean, it didn't matter if I was a corner kick, a goal kick, or a throw-in. It was the same group of guys, and they were just over the top. And I think they did take it over the top. So, anyways, we ended up winning the game, and so I went over to them and kind of took my shirt off and started swinging it in the air, and then I think we'd won the previous year as well. And basically, what I was saying was, we have you in our pockets. And I think it was misconstrued for a lot of other things, but it was basically me stuffing my shirt down my pants saying, we have you in our pockets.
Great moment. Great moment. You know what people don't realize is, I guess if you're the person doing it, but the things that people yell from the front rows, the people on the stands, is incredibly pointed. And now in the age of internet, I don't know what it was like, not to date you here, sorry about this, but now when they can find you on Instagram, on Facebook, they know your previous girlfriends, they know your life story, and it's incredible. These things shout at you from the third row, and it's either really cuts you or you're like, I'm not even mad. Where did you find that?
Right. Yeah, and I think it just determines, it depends on how the game goes as well. Like if you're on top of it, you can, all that stuff is just noise, but I think, when it's a tight game and you're hearing this guy nonstop about some nonsense. I mean, credit to them, great fans. I mean, you want those. Those are the fans that you want in your stadium. But it's tough when you're going through it, and I guess it's what makes it, a beautiful game is to have that type of fanatical support.
Yeah, always makes for better matches. When you think back on your career, and you've already alluded to the fact that it's rarely directly up, was there a single moment or maybe a lucky break that you got that led us to have the Pablo Mastroeni that we know?
Yeah, I think back in 2001, I had my first national team cap back in, I think, June of that year. And Bruce brought me to South Korea, and we played South Korea in a friendly in December of 2001. And I think, I know I played real poorly. The guy that the guy I was playing right back at the time, and the left winger was really had an easy night of me, and it was one of those games that things just weren't going your way, and it just metastasized into just a really, really poor performance. I remember after that game, I got a note from Bruce saying, "Hey, listen, bud, there's obviously not the best performance." He said, 2006 is a possibility still. Keep your head up and keep working hard. We'll be in touch. That was probably December 20th. I want to say December 30th, I get a call from Bruce, and he said, listen, Greg Berhalter just went down with a knee injury. He said, he plays center back. Would you be willing to come into camp, at least as a backup for a center back? And I said, Bruce, I'll play anywhere. And so I came in, and I had a really good camp at center back, and then didn't play the first game, but then got put in for the second game of the Gold Cup in 2001, ended up starting the rest of the games and winning the Gold Cup. And I think at that moment, I believed, that's the moment where I really started believing in myself and thinking that I can play any position. And it was more about, and that's where it was more about mindset than it was about tactics. And I think that's where I began to develop that belief that if your mind's right, you can achieve anything.
That's cool. That's why I pulled up the lineup that day. I love going back through old U.S. lineups. Zach Thornton in goal, Manny Lagos on the field, Diego Gutierrez, Kobe Jones, Chris Armas, Carlos Llamosa. I love this. Can you name the 11 from every game you played? Are you one of those people?
No, I'm not.
All right, bringing this back. When you were a player, you also talked about, and I think anybody listening to you talk about life, about the game, can hear how introspective you are. You talked about mental health. Nick Fiershow wrote a great article about it on MLSsoccer.com about you and Landon Donovan. And you talked about writing journals. Do you still do that?
I still do. Every day. Yeah.
Every day?
Yeah, I think it's a way to just get things, off your chest and onto paper. And again, some days it's more about creative writing. It's about, and some days it's just, talking to myself through a different medium, and writing it on paper and more from a positive affirmation perspective. But I think writing for me has been a great release, and it's also spawned a desire to engage in creative writing and to express myself in different ways that I never thought I could do. But I love it, and to this day, it's an important part of my daily ritual.
That's awesome. So you've been away from the game for almost 2 years now. What do you want to do next? Where's the next step for you?
Well, I think this was a huge step, coming here and coming back to the iconic MLS.
Iconic, I like that.
Yeah.
Well, let me teach you a trick, though. The iconic AT&T MLS studio. All right? That's your first step in the trade.
There you go. No, and just and kind of getting out and I want to get back in the game. Mm-hmm. When and where and how, that's all to be seen. But I think the first step is coming out and and sharing some time with you guys and being in and around it, and again talking the 2019 Audi playoffs.
You're getting it. You're a pro already.
I think it's an exciting time to kind of be back in the fray and to watch this great season unfold.
Where else do you think on the soccer side? I mean, you see U.S. soccer from the 1,000-foot, neutral perspective now. Where do you think there are some gaps, and where do you think your skill set and attributes can help American soccer?
Well, I think it's huge. I think American soccer is still, in a lot of ways, trying to find itself. I think too often as a country we're easily influenced by the outside world instead of really looking within and seeing what makes an American player and how being different is beautiful, and accepting that maybe, let's start with competitiveness. That's who we are. We want to win everything we do, whether it's Monopoly, cornhole. It doesn't matter what game you're playing. You want to win. That is what being American is. And being okay with that. And then from there, you have that competitiveness, you have that grit, that desire to become better every day, and then you add the style of play stuff to it. You add the tactical stuff to it, but you never lose who you are. And I think too often, we try to emulate different countries, different styles of plays, but I think if you go back in recent history, you'll see some of the best teams in U.S. soccer were the ones that came together as a team. And that's another important element, I think, too, is a lot of these countries have very good individual players, and they rely heavily on those players. If they don't show up, their teams are no good. What made us and the U.S. teams before, I think, a force to be reckoned with was we were always a team. There's no name on the back that was bigger than the name on the front. And we were okay with that. Even though in 2002, I mean, you had McBride, Ernie Stewart, Kobe Jones, Claudio Reyna, John O'Brien. I mean, you had some names, Friedel. I mean, you can go on, Yamosa, Goose, Eddie Pope. I mean, Frankie Hayes. I mean, the names go on and on. But there was not one of those players, Landon Donovan, Beasley, there was not one of those players that was bigger than the badge on the front, and I think that was okay. That was American. We were a team. And we beat up on teams that were guided by a guy like Figo, played with the best of them and with a guy like Michael Ballack on the field. And so I think when we start looking inside and being okay with being different and not subscribing to what everyone thinks we should be doing, I think we'll find ourselves. And at that point, I think we'll move in a direction that will achieve, I think, what we all want.
All right. I don't know where to take this from there. That feels like the right place to wrap. That was awesome. Pablo, thank you so much for coming in, sharing your story, sharing your insight. It was fantastic to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Bobby.